Good afternoon, sports fans. Welcome inside the Sports Fan Base Network studios, and welcome to another edition of And That's the Game, our quick bite show each and every day at 4 p.m. on the Sports Fan Base Network Rhode Island platforms. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch. We are all over the place. Privileged to be with you once again, and it is a double duty day for those of you who tuned in this morning and caught me on Sports World Weekly. It is Saturday, so welcome to a very long day inside the studio. But today we are talking about who is number one, and we don't mean necessarily who is number one as who is the best athlete out there, who is the best team out there, who might be, the best whatever, but who is number one in college football. Clemson clearly showed that they are not the best team in the nation right now. They were down 18 points at one point against Boston College today and had to scramble back to barely win by 6. Now, yes, it takes Clemson to 7-0. It keeps them undefeated. You can make the case that if they stay undefeated, they're number one. But now you have to look at this. Here is a Clemson team at number one who has found themselves to struggle against an up-and-coming Boston College team. And they have number 4 Notre Dame next week. So this goes on to say, if Clemson is not number one, who is? Is it Alabama at number 2? But Alabama has questions because the SEC schedule hasn't been exactly what we expected it to be this year. Alabama hasn't been challenged yet. They haven't had really legitimate conversation yet. Same with number 3, Georgia. Is Georgia as good a team as they actually are? Well, the SEC really hasn't had a lot of conversation yet. So then you look at number 4, Notre Dame. Is number 4 Notre Dame the number one team? Well, Notre Dame had some problems against Louisville. Now, they've certainly recovered from that, and they came back. So now we have the conversation. Was number 4 Notre Dame's problems against Louisville equal to that of number 1 Clemson's problems against Boston College? If that's the case, next Saturday, we have the game that decides the college football season. Number 4 Notre Dame against number 1 Clemson. Now, if Trevor Lawrence can play for Clemson, is it a different game than what we saw today with Clemson being run by DJ Uiagalelei? However, if Trevor Lawrence cannot play next week against Notre Dame, does Clemson have what it takes to take on a team with the caliber of Notre Dame? Boston College is a good team. I'm not going to discredit what Boston College is doing right now. They just lost by 6 at the very end of the game to the number 1 team in the country, a team in which they led by 18 points at halftime. Now, sure, all things can be said for second half adjustments. Clemson certainly made some dynamic second half adjustments on defense, and they had pulled Phil Jurkovec on his heels in the second half. But in college football, where number 1 and the number 1 ranking gives you all sorts of leverage in the postseason, we finally have a question as to who's number 1. It's next Saturday between Clemson and Notre Dame. Now, we're going to stay on this number 1 conversation, and I want to take it to the NFL for a second. We have a game coming up on Sunday in the NFC East between a 2-win Dallas Cowboys team and a 2-win Philadelphia Eagles team. Whoever gets that win if there is a win, because the Philadelphia Eagles already tied in one game earlier this year. Whoever gets that win is going to be on 3 wins and is going to be the top team in the NFC East. Does that team in the NFL playoffs deserve to be a number 4 seed and host a wild card game in the first round of the playoffs, likely to be against a team that will have a better record than them? I'm not saying that the NFL should go to a college football rankings format. But what I'm saying is maybe it's time that we start to look at whether or not the playoff structure should be the top 8 teams in the conference. NFC combined, AFC combined. Hey, if you look at it this way, look at what we do in the NHL. Look at what Major League Baseball does with how wild cards get determined. Look at what the NBA does with how playoff seeding gets determined. There's case in point to be said for the NFL moving to a top 8 in the conference, go to the playoffs situation. Now, everyone's going to say it's going to eradicate the divisions and division champions still get in one way or another. This is kind of already how it is. But here's what I'm saying. If you are a 7-9 team, just because you won your division should not determine that you get a home field advantage situation in the playoffs. The NFC East is a trash can division right now. And until the NFC East can produce a team that at least goes 10-6 in a season, you shouldn't be able to host a home playoff game. I want to close off with one final thought on who is number 1. And this is the conversation that's been going on about who is number 1 with the NBA. LeBron James just won his 4th NBA championship. It's 4 in 17 seasons. Is that phenomenal? Yes. Does it make his career legendary? Yes. Does LeBron James deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Yes. Is LeBron James one of the greatest players in the history of basketball? Yes. I saw a comment yesterday that said, LeBron James won his 4th NBA championship in 17 years. Oh my gosh, isn't this amazing? Look at how much he's accomplished. Hey guys, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. I can keep going on. They won 4 championships in shorter than 17 seasons. LeBron James is great, but LeBron James isn't number 1. So who's number 1? In college football, I don't think it's Clemson right now. In the NFL, it's not the NFC East. And in the NBA, it's not LeBron James. And that's the game for October 31st, 2020. I'm Matt Jolas. Thanks for tuning in on the SFBNRI platforms. We'll see you 4 o'clock tomorrow for another edition of And That's the Game. Take care. Have a good night. Stay safe. Happy Halloween, everyone.